Let me go to Max Baucus, and then Chuck Grassley. I want to get a sense of the folks on the Finance Committee. They're going to have some influence on this process. Just a little bit. Max?
Thank you, Mr. President. First, you got some real luminaries in this room. Yourself, 2 hours ago, you mentioned President Roosevelt trying to accomplish healthcare reform. He's on the right in the corner. And I think he's very proud. And the third luminary is right to my right here. I think the spirit of all three of you is a different opportunity. Second, American culture. Yes, we're at a time in American history. American people want all regions. It's as you can war, fiscal, and you started this process, I think, very much the right way. It was all tone, culture, feeling, cooperation, constructive ways, evidence-based, science that works, doesn't work practically. The real key here is for us to continue that, keep everybody after the game. This is all encompassing. There are trade-offs for everything. This is not a short-term tactical exercise. This is a strategic, longer-term plan. It has to be a uniquely American solution. We're not Europe, we're not Canada, we're not Japan, we're not the countries. We're American, with public and private participation. And there's no doubt in my mind, happening to the good old American can-do and entrepreneurial spirit, we're going to find solutions. The key here really is to keep, for us all stay at the table, keep an open mind, and we're seeing how this works and so forth. It's really not going to be easy. It's a fairly steep learning curve, and a lot of people to get this done. But clearly, the attitude, the spirit, and the same mind is here, the desire is here to do this in a very thoughtful way. And I can't thank you enough for playing leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Max.
Mr. President, thank you very much for this opportunity. From our breakout session, you probably get the idea that it's pretty easy to get done. We know it's very difficult to get done. But without that sort of feeling starting out, nothing will get done. And I think you served with us in the Senate long enough to know that Max Baucus and I have a pretty good record of working on bipartisan things. Neither one of us, or neither one of our parties get everything that they want. But we've had a pretty good record. I think only 2 bills in 8 years that haven't been bipartisan. And so we have a process in place that has hearings coming up, that has a process of getting roundtable discussions, getting stakeholders in, getting authorities in. And we expect to have work on this in the committee in June. Maybe it'll sound a little ambitious, but if you aren't ambitious on a major problem like this, the country decides needs to be done, it will never get done. So the only thing that I would throw out for your consideration, and please don't respond to this now because I'm asking you just to think about it, there's a lot of us that feel that the public option, that the government is an unfair competitor, and that we're going to get an awful lot of crowd out. And we have to keep what we have now strong and make it strong.
Okay. Well, let me just, I'm not going to respond definitively. The thinking on the public option has been that it gives consumers more choices, and it helps keep the private sector honest because there's some competition. That's been the thinking. I recognize, though, the fear that if a public option is run through Washington and there are incentives to try to tamp down costs, or at least what shows up on the books, and you've got the ability in Washington apparently to print money, that private insurance plans might end up feeling overwhelmed. So I recognize that there's that concern. I think it's a serious one and a real one, and we'll make sure that it gets addressed, partly because I assume it'll be very hard to come out of committee unless we're thinking about it a little bit. And so we want to make sure that that's something that we pay attention to. A couple other people I want to call on. I'm going to switch gears and get some groups in here, and then I'll come back to a couple other legislators. Karen, Unagi? There you are. Good. Watch away from the mic, Karen, so that we can hear you. Karen represents America's Health Insurance Plans.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for inviting us to participate in this forum. I think on behalf of our entire membership, they would want to be able to say to you this afternoon and everyone here that we understand we have to earn a seat at the table. We've already offered a comprehensive series of proposals. We want to work with you. We want to work with the members of Congress on a bipartisan basis here. You have our commitment. We're hearing the American people about what's not working. We've taken that very seriously. You have our commitment to play, to contribute, and to help pass health care reform this year.
Good. Thank you, Karen. That's good news. That's America's Health Insurance Plans. While I'm on it, why don't I call on Dan Danner, who's NFIB. Is Dan still here?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Give us the business perspective.
I'm honored to be here representing small business. We do think that small business has a key role in this debate, and for them, cost is still the top issue. And we very much look forward to finding a solution together that works for America's job creators. So appreciate being here, and thank you.
One thing I want to talk about this whole cost issue. I can't emphasize this enough. There is a moral imperative to healthcare. I get 40,000 letters, I guess, every day here in the White House. I don't read all 40,000. But my staff selects 10 every single day that I read and try to respond to as many of them as possible. It's a way of staying in touch with the constituencies that I had a chance to meet during the course of the campaign. I can tell you that on average, out of the 10, at least 3 every single day relate to somebody who's having a healthcare crisis. Either it's a small business that's frustrated because they can't even insure themselves, much less their employees. It's a mom who's trying to figure out how to insure their child because they make a little bit too much money so they don't qualify for S-chip in their state. Heartbreaking stories. So there is a moral component to this that we can't leave behind. Having said that, if we don't address costs, I don't care how heartfelt our efforts are, we will not get this done. If people think that we can simply take everybody who's not insured and load them up in a system where costs are out of control, it's not going to happen. We will run out of money. The federal government will be bankrupt. State governments will be bankrupt. So I hope everybody understands that for those of you who are passionate about universal coverage and making sure that the moral dimension of healthcare is dealt with, don't think that we can get that done without, excuse me, it's a healthcare forum, so model what happens when you don't get enough sleep. Don't think that we can, that's right, I'm talking to you liberal bleeding hearts out there. Don't think that we can solve this problem without tackling costs. And that may make some in the progressive community uncomfortable, but it's got to be dealt with. And the flip side is what I would say to those who are obsessed with costs, and this goes to the issue of Medicare and Medicaid reform as well. I don't think it is a viable option as a means of controlling costs simply to throw seniors off Medicare rolls, for example, or to prevent them from getting vital care that they need, which means we've got to balance heart and head as we move this process forward.